I always like to make, I know it sounds crazy, I always make a big deal, but it's pretty cool when you come from the back to the show, you know what I'm saying? I was gonna say, bring me from the bullpen, but that didn't work too well last night, so I didn't really wanna go there. Wednesday night, here y'all had a phenomenal service. Pastor Wes was bringing it. We got a little TV in the back, so that's kind of how we gauge when service is over. So I'll get out there and look, and I come out there where he was talking about buying people gas. How many of you guys bought somebody some gas? Anybody think about doing that? That's okay. I'm going to be at Bucky's after service. Just throw that out there in case you want to do that. I'm just playing. But we had our carnival night Wednesday night, and this kind of is where this message kind of inspired by our carnival night. I'm going to show you just a couple pictures of our carnival night just because it was so awesome. So here's the first picture. This is our room. Like we just take one of our rooms and we set up booths, and man, we had pizza and we had getting pies in the face. We had all kind of games. Here's another picture of just in the room. It's like crazy. Everybody's in costume. And then the last picture is probably my favorite. This is Pastor Wes's son as the cop, and Pastor Steph and James's son as the criminal here. And I love it. I was like, Dee Dee, smile. She's like, no, I'm going to jail. I'm like, well, at least she knows what to do right there. She knows she was going to jail. But I love that picture. But again, this is kind of what inspired this message. Is I'm thinking about carnival night, and I was thinking about the H word, and I don't know if we can say the H word in church. I'm just going to say, Pastor, I didn't even ask you. I'm going to say, I hope it's okay, Halloween. All right, don't get me. Don't get me, please. Hey, I was going to say, go ahead and take that picture down. Yeah, don't get me with the Halloween word. But this is weird how this come about, because I'm thinking about the Halloween, and I know some people, and look, if you're like, that's the devil's day, I ain't got nothing to do with it, that's you, that's fine. That's fine. That's kind of not how I do it, but that's okay. It's okay that we can differ on that. But I was thinking about this. I was thinking because we have this group in Alvin called Talk of Alvin. If you're on Facebook, I know it's us older folks, we're on Facebook a lot. And there's a group called Talk of Alvin where it's like everybody lives in Alvin. You can find out. It's good. It's supposed to be good stuff. But like you can literally put on Talk of Alvin like going to church is going to be a great day. And someone will be like, oh yeah? Let me tell you why it's not going to be a great day. But anyway, so someone put a comment on there. It's like, why are you Christians celebrating Halloween? I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. They finally turned comments off after like 300 comments. And I just started thinking about this. I started thinking about religion. I started thinking about, that some of the battles that we choose to fight with each other. I don't know if you've ever thought this. And again, let me just go on and preface this message by saying that everything I'm going to talk about today is stuff God is working on me with, okay? So I'm not trying to point at anybody. I'm just looking right here and being like, let's go, get it together. But I think you guys can learn something from it too. But I realize that the church is always fighting each other. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Like one of my favorite preachers, Pastor Joel. Pastor Joel, if you're watching, I love you. I'm just kidding. Pastor Joel's not watching me. But, right? But I think about this. I think about Pastor Joel in Lakewood. I'm thinking, I don't know of no other church, that gets hammered like they do for everything they do. Like they have a young adult service on Sunday night, and I'm not really a young adult, but I slip in there. And it's a great service. I love what they do. But sometimes you go to church on there and there's people holding up signs about what they're doing. And guess what? It's other church people. Hear me, this isn't non-believers out here pitching a fit. It's other church people that we decide, instead of working together, I don't like what they're doing because they do things different than me. And I was thinking, I'm going to tell you what, this is my personal opinion, but like when it comes to Halloween, again, this is just me, but like when you grow up in the projects, let me tell you what Halloween is. It's about some free candy. Okay? That's it. Like it ain't about scary. Everybody talks about this, all the costumes, and we know we can trace back the dates and this pagan and witchcraft. Look, somebody like me, I was like, one time a year I get something for free. And it's not government cheese or food stamps, but now it's actual candy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've ever been there, but you're like, knock on a door and I get candy. Come on. I would go around the first time with no costume. I'm poor, candy. Next time I just put a mask on, more candy. Change my shirt, more that's just what we did. And I truly believe if Jesus was here today, I guarantee you Jesus would be handing out candy. I'm just saying, that's my personal belief. And he wouldn't be handing out those black and orange little peanut butter things. He'd be handing out like king size, shareable M&Ms, like the good stuff. You know what I'm saying? He'd be handing out the good stuff. I'm telling you, he would be. He would be. Now again, I know what you're saying. Pastor Bunk, is this just a pro-Halloween message? It is not. It is not. This is just kind of what led me down this road of talking about and thinking about religion, because look, I don't want to be a religious person, but guess what? There's times that I am. And I was thinking, I'm putting this message together. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like, I'm still not finished with it, okay? So we're gonna work through this together. But I had it was so cool, man, because I'm gonna get ahead of the game. I've got these 15 pages of stuff. And I threw it all away. I was like, it's just not working. But there's one thing I wanted to do. I said, man, we done a drama in Belize that talked about how Jesus is greater than religion. And I said, man, no matter what I preach on, I want this drama, I'm telling you, is gonna speak to us today. The only problem is it was 5 seniors last year. So get out the old text. I was like, Leash, text all the seniors. Let's rally the troops. I'm out of town. I'm at school. I'm like, oh my gosh. But my favorite senior, don't tell the others, my favorite senior, Bailey, was gonna be in town. I was like, we can do this. Bailey's a former Kids Zone MVP worker. You know what I'm saying? She's a good volunteer. So I'm like, let me recruit some other volunteers from Kids Zone. And they're gonna make their way up right now. And we're gonna present you just a little skit, a little drama for you just to really think about, is Jesus greater than religion in your life? And I want you to know that we worked for months on this before we went to Belize. These guys have literally worked for 2 hours. But you know what? God is gonna be honored in this. Have an open mind and realize that, man, Jesus truly is greater than religion.
What if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? What if I told you getting you to vote Republican really wasn't his mission? Because Republican doesn't automatically mean Christian, and just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision. I mean, if religion is so great, why has it started so many wars? Why does it build huge churches and fail to feed the poor? Tell single moms God doesn't love them if they've ever had a divorce, yet in the Old Testament, God actually calls religious people whores. Religion might preach grace, but another thing they practice. Tend to ridicule God's people, they did it to John the Baptist. Can't fix their problems, so they try to mask it, not realizing it's just like spraying perfume on a casket. The problem with religion is that it never gets to the core. It's just behavior modifications like a long list of chores. Like, let's dress up the outside and make it look nice and neat. But it's funny, that's what they do to mummies while the corpse rots underneath. Now, I'm not judging, I'm just saying, be careful of putting on a fake look. Because there's a problem if people only know you're a Christian by your Facebook. I mean, in every other aspect of life, you know that logic's unworthy. It's like saying you play for the Astros just because you bought a jersey. But see, I played this game too, and no one seemed to be onto me. I was acting like a church kid while addicted to pornography. I'd go to church on Sunday, but on Saturday getting faded, acting if I was simply created to just have sex and get wasted. I spent my whole life putting on this facade of neatness. But now that I know Jesus, I boast in my weakness. Because if grace is water, the church should be an ocean. It's not a museum for good people, it's a hospital for the broken. I no longer have to hide my failures, I don't have to hide my sin. Because my salvation doesn't depend on me, it depends on him. Because when I was God's enemy, and certainly not a fan, God looked down and said, I want that man. Which is so different from religious people and why Jesus called them fools. Don't you see he's so much better than just following some rules? Now let me clarify. I love the church, I love the Bible, and yes, I believe in sin. But if Jesus came to your church, would they actually let him in? Remember, he was called a drunkard and a glutton by religious men. But the Son of God does not support self-righteousness, not now and not then. Because this is why religion and Jesus are on opposite spectrums. One is the work of God and one is a man-made invention. One is the cure and one is the infection. Because religion says do, but Jesus says done. Religion says slave, but Jesus says son. Religion puts you in shackles, but Jesus sets you free. Religion makes you blind, but Jesus lets you see. This is what makes religion and Jesus two different clans. Religion is man searching for God, but Christianity is God searching for man. Which is why salvation is freely mine. Forgiveness is my own, not based on my efforts, but Christ's obedience alone. Because he took the crown of thorns and the blood dripped down his face. He took what we all deserved. I guess that's why we call it grace. While being murdered, he yelled, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Because when he was dangling on that cross, he was thinking of you. He paid for all your sins and then buried it in the tomb, which is why I'm kneeling at the cross saying, come on, there's room. So yes, I hate religion. In fact, I literally resent it, because when Jesus cried, "It is finished," I believe he meant it.
Oh yeah, come on. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was good, huh? Thank you guys. Good stuff right there. Jesus is greater than religion, church. Let's talk about it a moment. How about that? Let's just talk about it. Man, Jesus is so much greater than religion. I don't know about you, man, but sometimes I feel like, and again, this is just me, but man, sometimes I feel like, am I as effective as I used to be? Now look, we're still doing good things for Jesus. Don't get me wrong, like I feel like I'm still a good Christian. I mean, I hope so. I'm pastoring your kids, right? Some things have to be going right in my life. But sometimes I feel like, because see, in my family, like I'm the only Christian. I'm the only one that goes to church. I'm the religious person. You know, and I hate that term, like, well, you know, you're the religious one. You say the prayer. You know, you're the religious one. Let's call you when something's going on. And I'm like, it's not about, I don't want to be religion, because when I think of religion, man, it's this set of rules, it's these laws, it's these things. I'm telling you what it is. It's really standards that no one can measure up to. I don't know about you, but I remember being in church years ago. And I remember coming in and sitting down and thinking, man, I don't know if I can make this. Man, God, I don't know if I can be good enough. Like Saturday night, man, I blew it, and I'm sitting in here on Sunday and I'm sweating, and I'm like, man, God, if something happens, I don't even know that I'm going to get to heaven. Like, man, I'm trying, but I keep slipping. I keep messing up. Things keep happening in my life, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this thing. It's just too tough. I don't know if you ever thought that. Maybe it's me, but I'm like, man, it seems like this Christian life is tough. And the more I look through my Bible and I look at the life of Jesus, you know the people that had a problem with Jesus? The church folk, the Christian people. They're the ones that had the problem with Jesus. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, all these people, they're the ones that looked at Jesus and they had a problem with Jesus. So we're going to look at a few of those examples today. Let me see. Let's go to Matthew 23 and 25. That's where we're going to start off. Everything's New King James for you today. So let's jump in there. It says it like this. It says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence." Again, remember, religion is about the outside. You know, I even thought about that before I wore these jeans today. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, these jeans is pretty holy. Get it? Holy. So I thought they'd be good. But I was like, really? Really? Because I'm like, guess what? For some of us in this room, let's just be honest. If you don't like the way someone's dressed, you're like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know. I don't know who led him up here looking like that. Don't worry, I thought the same thing. But I can remember going to church, man, and having a suit on and being just as worldly and just as bad, but I could walk up to you and say, "Sister Brenda, good morning. God is good." Maybe you never done that. Maybe you never went to church and put on a mask. See, a lot of us, we don't like Halloween, but a lot of us are dressing up right now. Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to come out swinging. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. This is what I want you to understand, is I love you guys. And I believe that God is wanting to do something in the church. God's always wanting to do something amazing in the church, right? With his people. And more times than not, we're the ones holding him back. Let's look at another scripture. Let's look at Mark 3, 1 through 6. You got it, Miss Helen. Mark 3, 1 through 6, it says this: "And he entered the synagogue again, and a man was there who had a withered hand. So they watched him closely, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him." So already, man's coming in and got a problem, and they're not watching to see, is he going to perform another miracle? They're like, I hope he does it. We got something else to talk to him about. We got something else to get on him about. Isn't that crazy? And it says, "And he said to the man who had the withered hand, 'Step forward.' And he said to them, 'Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save a life or to kill?' But they kept silent. And when he had looked around at them with anger, being grieved by the hardness of their hearts, he said to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored as whole as the other. Then the Pharisees went out, and immediately they went out and plotted against him that they might destroy him. So check this out. You have just seen a miracle. They didn't run out like praising Jesus. They didn't run out being like, yo, you got to come to our church. You know what they ran out like? Something ain't right. Because it don't match up with what we think it should be. Again, maybe you've never thought that way, but sometimes I think that way. I see people, I look at people, and I'm like, again, it's just human nature, I think, sometimes to judge what we see on the outside, whenever really we know Jesus works from the inside out. You know what I'm saying? We all can look good on a Sunday and get in our Sunday best, but that don't mean everything is going all right. See, for some of us in here, we got to come to church and we got to have a smile on our face because that's what we feel like we have to do. We can't let people know that we just lost our job or we're dealing with loss, or guess what? I slept at my friend's house last night because my marriage is not great. Like, none of those things can happen in church because we're worried about what people are going to think about us. Now, for me, I know there's times in my life, man, where there's things I wanted to talk to someone about. That, man, I need someone to hold me accountable. There's things in my life that I need some help, but there's nobody I can talk to because everybody's going to look at me different. I don't know if you've ever been there when you're thinking like, man, I want to call, so who can I don't know anybody that I can call. And you know the craziest thing, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I find myself reaching out to non-believers. I don't know if you've ever done that. It blows my mind that we can be honest with someone who doesn't believe more than someone who does. Because we're so worried about what they're going to think about us. Let me take you to this next set of scriptures. You're going to love this one. John 8. Let's go to John 8, verse 1. Y'all better get ready. I got it highlighted for days in here, okay? We're going to catch up on our reading today. It says, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Now early in the morning he came again in the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery. And when they had set her in his midst, then they said to him, teacher, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. I don't know what happened there, but that was not a good day, right? It says, now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned, but what do you say? They said this, testing him, that they might have something of which to accuse him. Again, church folks just trying to mess up Jesus. But Jesus stooped down, wrote on the ground with his finger, and though he did not hear. So when he continued asking him, he raised himself up and said to them, he who is without sin among you, let him throw the first stone. And again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in his midst. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, woman, who are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you? She said, no one, Lord. And Jesus said to her, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have light of life. I want you to think about this for a moment. The church people, I don't know how to even call it this woman. I don't know if they just scoping places out, like trying to catch folks, like running around trying to get in everybody's business. I don't know. But this is what I do know, that they got her, they drug her. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? I don't know what happened in your life this week. Okay, I only can speak for me, and I didn't even do nothing that bad, but I don't want no one dragging me up here going, church, let me tell you what Pastor Al, let me tell you what we call Pastor Bunk doing. I don't want that, and be like, what? Like, how you know that, right? But they literally drug this lady up here. The embarrassment, the shame, you know what I mean, can you just imagine in that moment? Why are so many of us nervous to really let people know what's going on in our life? Because nobody wants to be that woman. I don't want to be drugged to the front and made fun of. But I love whenever you look at Jesus. Hear me. Man, when we're singing about Jesus, we're not just singing about the rules and the regulation and things. It's like Jesus who loves us in spite of everything. Think about this. In spite of everything that happened in your life this week, that you got a God in heaven that looks at you, he knows everything. It always blows my mind on the stuff that we refuse to do, like at church. Like I can remember, like being younger, we'd be like, "Oh man, you better not cuss. It's church grounds." And look, I get that, man. This place is sacred. This is where we worship. It is something special. But then we'll step one foot across and be like, bleep, 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 bleep. Like what? Like Jesus knows what's going on in our life. Jesus knows what is happening in our life. It's not about focusing on the external, but the internal. And know that he cares more about you than he cares about your issue. I don't know if you know that, but I'm telling you, because some of us, I've sat right where you are and thought, man, I'm no good to nobody. God's not going to use me. You know why? Because I know me. I can smile at church and I can talk the lingo, but man, my life is a wreck. And I see the way people act, I'm like, man, this is not, sometimes we think this is not for me. But I want you to know, Jesus is nothing like that. Hear me, Jesus is nothing like, Jesus took this woman, he's like, girl, you're good with me. Just go and sin no more. See, we think we got to fix everything. Sometimes religious people, and again, I'm not saying you are, sometimes I'm religious. Sometimes I find myself in this thing of I think it should be a certain way just because that's how I've done it. That don't mean it's right, that's just all I know. You know what I'm saying? Let's go a little further. Let's go to Matthew 9, chapter 1. We'll start in verse 1 here. It says, so he got into a boat and crossed over and came to his own city. Then behold, they brought to him a paralytic laying on a bed. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, son, be of good cheer, your sins are forgiven you. And at once some of the scribes and themselves says, this man is blasphemous. Again, here we go again. I'm telling you, I've got scriptures for days of everything Jesus did with the church people coming against everything he did. And this is what it made me think about in my own faith. Who is coming against me? Because if nobody's coming against me, maybe I ain't doing nothing. Now, this ain't for you, this is me, but I got to thinking about this. Like Jesus, who we model our life after, who gave his life for us, he wrecked the church. He didn't do it just to make headlines, but Jesus says, look, I'm coming, I'm bringing another way. I get it, you guys, it's been this way for so long, but now that I'm here, again, he didn't say I come to abolish law, I came to fulfill the law, but I'm letting you know things are different because I am here. So it almost makes me think if nobody, and I know this is crazy talk, but if nobody's got a problem with my Christianity, am I playing it too safe? I know that's not you, but me. Because see, sometimes, I don't know if you ever go on trips, we're actually from Florida, so we got this 10 hours every time we go home. And sometimes it's safer just to put the cruise on and just drive. Then your feet are free, you can move your feet around. And sometimes in Christianity, I feel like that's what I do. Maybe you don't, but I do. I feel like sometimes I know I got to read my Bible. I know I got to pray. I know I got to this. And sometimes our faith is just this cruise control. We got to get to our church. Our church is great. We get to see our friends. We get to hear awesome music, great messages, all these good things. I go home. I do me. I work. I got my kids. Back to church on my Wednesday nights. Do my little part for Jesus that hour. I go home. I do me. Maybe you don't ever feel that way, but sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not giving enough. How does nobody got a problem with me, but everybody had a problem with Jesus? Think about it. Nobody's got a problem with me. Now, I will be honest, I've got a few Facebook messages. Holla at your boy, but it's always something little. But guess who Facebooks me with messages? Church people. So again, maybe I am doing something right sometimes, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying, are we exercising our faith in a way that really makes a difference? Have you ever thought about that? Again, Pastor, it's probably just me because I'm like looking in the mirror thinking, I think when I first got in this, sometimes I was more effective. I think when I didn't know better, I was more effective. I think when I worked my secular job that I'd go around and my goal was see how many people I could invite to church this week. Like I was known, I would drive my forklift around and they're like, oh, here he comes. He's going to invite us to church. Yeah, I am, honk, honk. Let's go. But I felt like I was just more effective because I didn't know. I didn't know all the songs. I didn't understand raising my hands. It was just me. Realizing that Jesus loved me. And he had a plan for me. Like, what are you? This is better than Halloween. This is better than free candy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that the creator of heaven and earth says, guess what? I can do something in your life. You're like, what? I don't know about you, but that's crazy to me. All right, let's jump back in. You're going to like this one. Let's go to Matthew 12. Matthew 12. 22. Oh, my bad. Oh, it is. Matthew 12, 22 and 24. It says this. Then one was brought to him who was demon-possessed, blind and mute, and he healed him so that the blind and mute man both spoke and saw, and all the multitudes were amazed and said, could this be the son of David? And now the Pharisees, now the church people said, this fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons. So basically calling Jesus the devil. They're like, ain't nobody can do that. Think about that. Everything Jesus did, every step he took caused problems. Look, this isn't the most exciting message. I'll be honest. I'm like, man, I want to get over here and rah. Let's fourth and long. Let's get some. But this is what I realized what God is telling me is like, because I don't know if you know the scripture. I was going to save it for last because I love it, but we're going to jump right to it. Go to John chapter 14. I'm just putting it all out here today. John chapter 14. Let's go to verse 12. It says, most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. And greater works than these will he do because I go to my Father. I've heard that scripture my whole life, but you know what? I haven't seen it a lot. Greater things are we going to do than Jesus. He's raising the dead. He's healing people. He's meeting people's needs. And he tells me that I'm going to do greater things than that. I don't know if you keep tallies, but sometimes I'm like, what have I done this week for Jesus? I'm like, man, I ain't doing none of that. But it made me think. Again, this is just a thought. I don't know. This is just me. Maybe I'm not seeing that because my life, I'm not really living it like Jesus like I should. Am I really putting it out there? Am I really getting out there? Am I really putting my faith out? Jesus was like a savage. He's like beast, like he's going around changing everywhere he went. Think about this. Everywhere he went, and he didn't care that people had a problem. Hear me. He's like, man, they're gonna hate on me if I heal this guy. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't heal him. No. Jesus is like, I'm gonna do what's like, I'm gonna heal this man right here and hopefully teach them along the way. I'm telling you, God, I believe for us to see that, man, we got to step outside of our normal routine of Christianity. Hear me. I love in that skit when it talks about the church is not a museum for good people, but a hospital for the broken. And this is what I love about this man, because I've been in church a long time, and everybody loves reaching the lost till the lost start coming. Maybe you don't know that. I always go back to my bus route days because I was a bus kid. I wouldn't be in church if it wasn't someone sending a bus. But when we were in our old country church we started out in, and they wanted to reach kids, and I'm like, dude, start a bus ministry. I'm telling you, I come to church because of a bus. We can pick up kids. And we went around in this rural area, it reminds me a little bit of Alvin, it's kind of not really city. And I went around and I would go in my clown suit and hand out candy. I like some candy. So I'm handing out, trying to get kids to come to church, but we only got a handful. So I go back to the pastor. I'm like, let me ask you a question. Do you really want to reach kids? I want to reach them. You sure? Because 25 minutes away, there's some projects. And I guarantee you, I have some kids. 12-passenger van, first day, we had 35 kids on that thing. I know it's technically not legal, but the Lord was with us and protecting us on this ride. And it only got bigger after that. Then we ended up getting a new bus. But anyway, throughout this is what I found out. They love seeing that bus pull, like, we're reaching people. But the moment the bus kids started fighting with the church kids, whoa, I don't know about reaching folks anymore, because like this is not comfortable. That's why I love when people talk about you getting out and reach people. Like, it's great, but just know it comes with its own set of issues and responsibilities. And I believe we should reach people. It's our job. Like, Jesus left us here to do his work. But just know it's not as simple as like, let's bring them in. It sounds good on Sunday. Go out there and bring them in. Now, once they get here and stuff starts going missing and this is happening, you're like, whoa, hold on, what happened? What happened to that camera? Anybody see the camera? The camera's gone. That's just what happens. See somebody walking down the 35, like he's got this little camera, I mean, that's what happens. But you got to be okay with that. And you realize, guess what? The payoff is worth it, right? I don't know about you, man, but again, I thank God every day that there was a church, there was some people that says, you know what? I'm going to go outside of myself and do what's comfortable. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to love them. Man, I still remember on Christmas, I can't remember the lady's name, but again, I'm telling you, dirt poor. You don't even get it. My mama didn't work. She had lost half her leg, and that ain't a joke. That's for real. Like, my mom was dealing with cancer. It was, oh man, it's just so bad. Such a bad childhood. I set my first police car when I was 8 years old, pulling this knife on somebody, and it was just, and my mom used to come out there, and she had this prosthetic leg, and she's talking to the cops, and literally, I don't know how many cop cars she talked me out of. When I was like kid zone, I'm like, Lord, oh man, you're reaping what you sow, you know what I'm saying? For real. And they're not near as bad as I was, right? But all these things were going on, and I realized that this lady would come by, and she knocked on our door and said, I want to take you and your little brother to Kmart for Christmas. We're like, hello, Kmart, blue light special. If you're a little bit older, you know Kmart would run them blue lights. You get a deal. But this lady like almost spent $50 on each of you. And I don't know about you, but $50 back, I mean, that was like, we are rich. We're going to Sizzler, we're rich, $50. And of course, my little brother, Clint, he bought a Voltron, and I'm like, can I get just a model and keep the change? And she let me. I know, I'm bad. But anyway, but it's people like that. I mean, really, when we think about it, the easy thing to do is just do you. Do your thing, your normal thing. It don't interrupt you. It don't mess up your schedule. It don't do any of that. Man, I can remember one day on that bus trip, we're riding this old bus, and it's pouring down rain, and the windshield wipers quit working. So I pull off, get a stick, we tie it, and I literally drive like this to hold my arm out the window. Like, I'm like soaking wet. Why would I do that? Because, you know, it's worth it. So sometimes I got to ask myself, when's the last time that I was a human windshield wiper? I'm telling you, when was the last time I done something outside of my normal routine to reach people for Jesus? Because, again, I'm not religious, but I find myself in this religious mode of just doing what is easy and what is comfortable to me. Amen? And I don't want to go out like that. Let's see, let's read, let's go to John chapter 9. John chapter 9, verse 1. It says, now as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth, and his disciples, and asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no man can work. And as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva and anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is translated to sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Therefore the neighbors and those who previously had seen him, he was blind, said, it is not this he who sat and begged? Some said, this is he. Others said, he is like him. He said, I am him. Therefore they said to him, how are your eyes open? He answered and said, a man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to the pool and wash. So I went, I washed and received sight. And they said to him, where is he? He said, I do not know. Now that's just to verse 12. Now we're going to start reading in 13. Again, Jesus is doing what Jesus does. Jesus is doing what we should be doing, right? Making a difference. But let me tell you what happens in verse 13. We're good up to 12. Up to 12, Jesus is doing Jesus. He's touching people's lives. We pick up in 13, it says, and they brought him, who was formerly blind, to the Pharisees. So here we go. We got a miracle. Let's take him to the church folk. See what they say. Now it was the Sabbath when Jesus made this clay and opened his eyes. So already all bets are off. You ain't healing on the Sabbath. So already they're not buying it. In 15 it says, and the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. And he said to them, he put clay on my eyes and I washed and I see. Therefore some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God because he does not keep the Sabbath. Others said, how can a man who is a sinner do such signs? So somebody's already questioning, but it says, and there was a division among them. They said to the blind man again, what do you say about him because he opened your eyes? He said, he is a prophet. It says, but the Jews did not believe concerning him that he had been blind and received his sight until they called the parents. So again, they're not even taking the word as the kids like, look, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's get your mom and daddy in here. And this is when it even gets crazier. His parents answered in verse 20. It says, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but by what means he now sees, we don't know. Or how opened his eyes, we do not know. They ask his age, he asks. He says, he can speak for himself. So again, the parents don't even want nothing to do with it. This is what I want you to understand. The parents are afraid of the church as well. They're like, no, this is our boy. He was blind, but I don't know what happened. Don't ask us, ask him. You know what I'm saying? They're like, we don't want to have nothing to do with it. In verse 23, it says, therefore his parents said, he is of age, ask him. So they again called the man who was blind and said to him, give God the glory. We know that the man is a sinner. He answered and said, whether he is a sinner or not, I do not know. One thing I know that though, is I was blind and now I see. Come on, he says, then he said to him again, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered him, I told you already, and you do not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples? Right? My man, you like that? My man's throwing it back. But this is the crazy part. Listen, I'm just going to go all the way down to 34. It says, they answered and said to him, you were completely born in sins, and are you teaching us? And they cast him out. Long story short, again, Jesus is doing what Jesus does. He is saving people. He is touching people. He's delivering people. He's healing people. And the church has a problem. And they're going to kick this guy out, kick him to the curb because of what Jesus did in his life. Let me ask you a question. I know Jesus is greater than religion. Are you greater than religion? That's the question I have to ask myself. Am I more caught up in the method? Am I more caught up in how things should be? You know, I'm going to let you guys in on a secret today. Is that all right? This is Church Secret 101, all right? Oh, make sure, all right. Just making sure the room was ready. Everything we do should be about Jesus. We come in here and recently we've changed our backdrop. It's not about if you like it or not. It's really not. I mean, it's cool, right? I like it. It's cool. But it's all about Jesus. Really, it's all about him. Like they may sing a song that you don't know. It's okay. It's all about Jesus anyway. Hear me. This is what we do, or I do. This is what I used to do. I can remember coming into church and seeing somebody in my spot. I sat in this spot every year for years. How dare someone walk in, a visitor off the street, come and sit in my spot? What are you doing, Jesus? I want to reach people, but not like this. Have you ever thought that? Like I'm all for reaching folks, but you can't sit in that's my pew. Like, I feel weird worshiping somewhere else. Like, my whole world is off. Like, think about some of the stuff that we do. Some of the stuff that seems to matter so much to us when it's all about Jesus. And let me just say this. If you've been saved any amount of time, you're what I call a veteran player. Again, I relate everything to sports because you're a veteran player. That means you've been in this. You know who God is. And I'm really it's about to get bad. You ready? Ain't none of this about you. I mean, really, at the end of the day, none of it's really about us. You know what it's about? Reaching people for Jesus. And if I come in and don't like the music, I realize the music ain't for me. Do you hear me, church? Are we really about reaching people in your personal life, in our church life? Like, we should be about reaching people because that's what Jesus did. When we follow his life in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and in John, you see Jesus, wrecking shop, making church people mad, and changing people's lives. Think about that. Like everything we should do is just about Jesus. We change this, we change that. Guess what? It's only because we're trying to get more people to Jesus. That's it. You come in and someone's in your chair, thank God someone else is here, right? Like, who cares? Who cares where I sit? But I'm going to give you a challenge. I've challenged all this before. It's been years ago, but you may not remember. Sit somewhere totally different next time. You may find out there's other people in this church that live down the street and you didn't even know it because you didn't go from one side to the other. I'm telling you, switch it up, mix it up. It's okay. It's okay to mix it up. I even think about the disciples. I think about this ragtag bunch of misfits that Jesus put together. When Jesus came to start his church, he didn't go to the synagogues. He didn't go find the best priest. He got a ton of fishermen who are, fishermen's rough. They're fishing, they rough, stinking. Got this old nasty tax collector be ripping people off. Think about that's what Jesus decided to start the church with. Now, if we're doing something like that, we're like, well, let me see. I want background checks. I want qualifications. Jesus is like, look, I want people that get it. I want people like Bunk. And let me tell you why I say that. I want people that remember how bad they were and where they came from. That way you don't look down at other people. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like, have I been in this so long that I forgot what it was like to not know Jesus? Have I forgot what it was like to live a life of sin? Did I forget what it was like, man, when my life was lost and had no direction, and all of a sudden Jesus in a moment stepped in and my whole life changed, the whole outlook on my life changed? What am I doing in that moment now? Now, when I first got saved, you know this, when you first get saved, you're telling everybody. And I understand you're not going to be super excited the whole time. I get that. But sometimes we get to a place where now we don't tell nobody. It's just us, and we know Jesus. And this table over here, there are a bunch of sinners in this restaurant. And again, I know you don't act that way, but there's people that act that way. There's people that we look down on and we realize that we should be there to reach those people. You know, that's like, let's go back to a Halloween commercial. This is what I was thinking. You're right, Halloween is dark, it's pagan, it's all. Guess what? Shine a light up in there. Why do we decide we're going to step back and that's going to be the devil's day and just don't have nothing to do with it? Why don't we shine a light up in there and let's change the whole holiday? I mean, isn't it our job to shine light in darkness? Could you imagine the impact you could have in your neighborhoods if you didn't, instead of turning the lights off and being grumpy, you flipped the lights on and gave out some good candy and opened a conversation? It don't have to be scary or weird. I mean, what are we doing to reach people like Jesus? It's hard for me sometimes to sit and look in the mirror, look on the screen, Bunk, look at you. Like sometimes I'm right here. Do I feel like I'm giving God everything that he deserves? And that's just a question I think we need to ask ourselves. Listen, this is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. It's about you and him. I don't got to answer for you. You don't got to answer for me. I'm going to have to stand before God and everything's on the table. But I just want to make sure I don't go out without a fight. And I realize that, you know what? My faith should be exercised. I don't want to get comfortable. All my veteran Christians in here, man, find you a rookie in this building and help them build their foundation on Jesus. I'm telling you, there's nothing better in a sports locker room than a veteran. A veteran player can show that rookie what's up. See, a lot of times we gauge people that just got saved, and we've been in it 20 years. Got me sounding like Elmer Fudd up here. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been in it so long, and someone just gets saved, and we're like, why can't they shake this? Why can't? Man, it took you 10 years to get things right. What are you talking about? But that's where we come alongside people. That's when our brothers and sisters can take that mask off and say, look, my marriage ain't good. Can you help us? That's when you don't have to be afraid to share your heart with people, because it's not about we're going to judge you. We're going to help you. We're not going to go on Facebook and be like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened. No, we're going to pray with you. We're going to encourage you. We're going to walk through this with you. I'm telling you, that's what Jesus wants. Oh, come on now. Greater things. Now, I've only got about 74 more scriptures, but I'll spare you those. But they're all about the same thing. They're all about time and time again that Jesus is doing what Jesus does, and the church is freaking out. All the way to the point where we know Judas betrays Jesus. Even one of his homeboys, his men that were with him, betrayed Jesus. And you know how Jesus repaid Judas? Wash his feet. That's a whole nother topic. We can preach about that later. That's what Jesus does. Jesus had a group of men that were with him. And this is what I like about the disciples. I just put together a little list of the disciples real quick in case you didn't know what happened to them. We're just going to go through that. Andrew, he was crucified on an X-shaped cross. Bartholomew, he was filleted alive with knives. James the elder was the first apostle martyred. James the lesser was sawn in pieces. Judas, we know, hung himself. Jude, killed with arrows. Matthew was martyred in Ethiopia. Peter was crucified upside down on the cross. Philip died by hanging. Simon the Zealot died a martyr's death. And Thomas was killed with a spear. So only John made it out. Everybody else went down for what they believed in. Hear me, gave their life for Christianity, gave their life so we could do what we do today. Started the church thousands of years ago. We're still here today because these men laid it all down. And I really don't want to ask nobody to come to church. Have you ever thought about that? Like, man, it's really uncomfortable for me to invite people. Better yet, it's really uncomfortable for me just to ask somebody to lunch. Forget even bringing them to church. You can bring them to church later. Have a relationship with someone. Be Jesus to someone. Hear me. We all have friends. We got families that they need someone to be Jesus to them. Not to judge them, not to talk down on them, to love them. Church, this is what I want for you guys today. It's the same thing I want for me. I want to make sure that I'm putting everything I got into my faith, that I don't get comfortable, that I don't set the cruise control, because I realize that this time and age we live in a lost and a dying and a hurting world. And Jesus has chose us to make a difference. I still believe the local church is the hope of the world. There's churches all over right now having service today, and that's great. It's great to come in here and get empowered. It's great to come in here and get uplifted. It's great to come in here, recharge your batteries. It's great to come in here and worship with your brothers and sisters. But let me tell you what, it can't stop when you walk out there and say, we'll pick it up Wednesday night or we'll pick it up next Sunday. We make a difference during the week. Hear me. This is the pep rally up in here. This is to get you hopefully fired up so when you leave this place that you can go talk to your waitress at lunch, give her a nice tip, and let her know that God loves her. You know what I'm saying? This is the pep rally, guys. If the worship team will come on up, we're going to get ready to close you guys out here in a moment. But this is where we get ready for the week. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times I think, Sunday's here, I get home from church, put my feet up, I'm like, oh, the week's over. No, it's just beginning. It's just beginning because I realize that God is going to put me in contact with people that need him. Do we realize that we're the answer to prayer that someone's praying for? That someone even in this room, someone at your restaurant you're going to, someone at your job is praying. They don't even know who God is, but they're like, God, show me this, do this. And God is speaking into us. God has chosen to use us on earth. I don't know if you get that. Now, we can look back in the Bible. We can look in the Old Testament and boom, there's clouds by day and fire by night. God's doing all these things. But once God decided that he's going to use Jesus, but when he sent the Holy Spirit back, that he decides he's going to use us to have his will accomplished on this earth. Now, could Jesus still say it and make it happen? You betcha. But he chooses to give us an opportunity to change people's lives.